Hey guys, what's up? It's Wit back for another episode of Disconnected, and sitting to my right now is my friend and fellow Disney enthusiast, Katie Carter. Hey Katie!
Hey Wit!
So we have never done this in real life like this, a full episode. What is happening? We're always doing this over Skype. Katie's in Tennessee with work, and I was like, Katie, this is an important episode. This is Beauty and the Beast. Let's just do this IRL in real life, and it's happening.
It is happening.
Yes,
We're doing it.
yes. Let's just jump into this review. We're going to talk about Beauty and the Beast, and then that's really going to be the whole show, except we're going to touch on Tangled, the series, and the movie, and all that. So we will talk about that towards the end, but let's get right to our review of Disney's new live-action Beauty and the Beast.
Rising in the east.
I loved this movie. Like, that was my first reaction, was I loved this. I enjoyed it so much.
I did too, and I went in with the expectation that I really wasn't going to like it that much, so I was pleasantly surprised when I did
Right.
end up actually loving it. And it only took like the first couple minutes of the movie before I was like, okay, I am with this. I like where this is going. So yeah, it was a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah. I mean, I think my overall thought was just, this movie was so magical.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, and I kind of was like you. I had the low expectations, but at the same time, I was really hoping they would pull through. It's not a perfect movie at all, but I still really, really enjoyed it, and I'm really happy. I'm really happy that Disney, they did this, and they did it well enough, I would say, to please me. So,
Yeah. I mean, when you look at like all of the live action remakes that they've done so far, this one's really the closest to the original.
Yes.
Like, all of the other ones were kind of more inspired by them, but also took in elements from like original stories and all of that. And this one was more of just a direct
right.
remake.
And how'd you feel about that? Because I kind of liked when there were new elements. I was like, ooh, I'm really interested in that. Like, for example, when they go time traveling, spoilers, by the way, when they go time traveling, like, I was like, yeah, can I see more of this? Like, this is new, and it's not exactly what I remember from the other movie. Or like with Maurice and Agatha, I was like, ooh, more please.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I really liked that they had all of that new stuff, because one of my main fears going into it was that it was going to be too much like the original. And I mean, it's still the same story.
Yes.
I mean, we all know how it's going to end, but I was afraid that there were going to be too many scenes where it was like exact shot for shot what the original was. And even when like the trailers were coming out, people were like, oh, here's side by side like the trailer and then the exact same scene in the original. And I was like, I don't want to see the exact same movie over again.
true.
And there are a lot of scenes that are basically exactly the same as the animated film, but it was really exciting to see all that new stuff. And there was enough new things or like old things that were done slightly differently that I didn't feel like I was watching the exact same movie.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And they went more into detail about, with the characters. And then also I feel like they kind of fixed any, not loose ends, but kind of question marks from the first movie. I think they kind of fixed a few things, and we can maybe touch on that. But the good for me, I mean, one thing that really stands out is what they did with Maurice. I loved what Kevin Kline was great, but I loved that they turned him into not so much crazy old Maurice.
Right.
I mean, loved it. Loved what they did with Belle's dad, Belle's father. Papa, as she said.
His performance was, maybe not my favorite, but he's definitely like one of the best ones from the movie. And it, just like his first scenes where he's singing the song, one of the new songs, I mean, that was just really great. And I like that he's more of like an artist.
Right. And then she's the inventor.
Yeah. So that was cool. But yeah, his performance was just great. So yeah, I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah. You mentioned the new music that he sang. And for me, that's a good. I loved the new music.
The new music. And yeah, I don't usually, when I see musicals I'm familiar with and they throw in new songs, I'm always like that wary of the new songs. But this one, I just immediately loved all of the new songs, and I felt like they fit well. And they came in at the right times, like the Beast song "Evermore."
Oh my
so
word!
Beautiful.
Oh,
I
chills.
loved that song, and it was
Chills.
like just the right moment to have that sort of song when Belle's leading him to go back to her father.
Oh, and it was so good.
So good.
Yes.
And,
Days in the
Days
Sun.
in the Sun
Love it.
was really great too.
Love it.
I feel like that was sort of like the equivalent of
Human Again.
But better, like way better. So yeah, that was beautiful. How Can a Moment Last Forever?
Yeah.
Is the other one that's kind of like a connection between Belle and her
Her
father.
mom, yeah. And her mom, yeah.
And exploring her past. So, and that's another beautiful song. And yeah, the opening music too, I really like.
Oh, yeah.
Audra McDonald sang.
Yes. Okay, why did Audrey McDonald not sing? Like, I would have been okay with her singing Beauty and the Beast for
Right.
this, honestly.
Right.
And she does at the end, just a little bit. But in the finale part, but
That's true. Well, the one thing, like the one scene where during the movie, I was like, this was so much better in the original, like, if they had just done such and such things different, was the ballroom scene.
okay.
Mainly because Angela Lansbury, like,
Oh, yeah.
you can't
Right.
replace her. And
Well, and also Emma Thompson sang it very like behind the rhythm a little bit. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about there, but yeah.
yeah. I mean, other things with the scene too. I mean, I think we've already established that I don't like the dress.
Okay.
It's like a big...
Have we established that? Would you like to embellish a little bit on that?
God, it's just, there's just all this build up to this big
To the dress.
moment.
It was
It's not
flat.
impressive.
It was a flat
It's
dress.
not impressive. It's not historically accurate. I have more thoughts
Wow.
on the dress.
Okay.
But
I mean, I'm just trying to think of the whole film from beginning to end. And starting at the beginning, I did like how they, instead of seeing the stained glass windows, we saw what was actually
I
happening.
love that.
Yeah.
That was
And
the
I
moment.
wanted a little more of that, actually.
Well, that was the moment where I was like, okay, yes, I
Mm-hmm.
like what they were doing with this movie. Because instead of, getting the stained glass thing, like you said, we actually get to see kind of how the prince was living before he was transformed.
Yes.
And you just get a sense of this really, superficial life that he was leading with all the gaudy makeup and costumes, and like the music is very frantic.
Yeah.
And I just really loved how they did that.
And they mentioned that he was like taxing the village so that he could have like the best furniture and the best parties and all this. And I was like, that's very good too.
Yeah, I mean, it just gives you a really, really better sense of what kind of person he was.
Yeah.
And, why this transformation or this curse ended up taking place. Oh, and the Enchantress, too.
Oh, yeah.
I love how...
Agatha, hey.
Yes, how they tied her in. to
I guess that
everything.
was Agatha. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
confusing. But
Well, that was like her villager name, I guess.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I love
Oh,
how
yeah.
They brought her back into it at the end of the movie. I thought that was nice.
Well, really, she was there all along because Gaston mentions her to Belle, and then she shows up again whenever Maurice is
Right.
like in the forest.
Right.
So, yeah. But no, I loved the opening. I do wish there was more to that. Like, I would have loved to have seen all of those characters a little bit more there. Like, we could have seen, I don't think we saw Ewan McGregor in that opening bit, but if he was around, I didn't get a good, well, you heard him talk because he was like offering to help the prince get ready. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen them a little bit more there too. But continuing on, I mean, the opening number of Belle was great, and I loved how instead of going to a library, she went to the church, and the I guess the minister or whatever was kind of like her little friend of sorts, and he like helped her whenever she had trouble with the washing machine, and like that was, I loved that idea where she invented her little washing machine, and then the town went and dumped it all out because she was teaching a kid to read. Rude.
Yeah, that was that thing was kind of weird.
Oh, okay.
To me, it was like, I see you guys are like trying to make a point here.
Oh yeah, they were trying
It's
to.
not like really
Yeah.
sticking.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, it's fine within the movie, but
Yes.
when you look outside the movie, they're like, oh, it's gonna be like more feminist.
Oh yeah, there was a
And it's
very
like,
big overtone of like, this is like female empowerment for Belle. Like,
it's really,
she's not the damsel in distress.
Much
So
so. I mean, you get like one scene where she's semi-punished
for
teaching someone
teaching
to
a
read, and
yeah.
she just kind of takes it.
Yeah.
There's not really,
Yeah.
there's not much there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird to me.
It's true. It's true. Okay, what else though? Thinking through, I mean, oh man, I think my favorite scene overall, and honestly, just musical number, was Gaston.
Yes,
I mean, it was so good.
it was so good.
Yeah.
The dancing was great. I love how they included lyrics that were written for the song originally, but were left out of the animated movie,
Right.
and they ended up bringing them back in for this one. I love that, and I think it, kind of revealed a more menacing side.
Yeah.
To
Oh, I think the whole
Gaston.
character of Gaston in this movie was a little bit more menacing, just a little bit. He kind of more had like a temper issue, I think, was what they were saying. But yeah, yeah. Well, and again, we were saying they all kind of we got more details about the characters, like there were backstories, and Gaston had been in the war and all of that. So whatever war it would have been, I don't know, but. Yeah, so there was more, but that number and LeFou, I mean, that's a big positive. But I just want to say, like at the end of that song, he's like spelling out Gaston's name, and he's like, "I think there's another T, but I'm illiterate, so I don't know."
Right.
Died. It was so funny, so
So
good.
good.
Yes.
So good. He was great, and Luke Evans as
Oh yeah.
Gaston. I think he was my favorite in the whole movie.
Yeah.
He just nailed that character, and his singing voice was good.
Oh, his singing voice was the best of the whole cast,
Yeah,
hands
he was
down.
great. He was great. And I was a little nervous at first because, in the original movie, Gaston has just such a deep, booming voice that suits his character so well. And I mean, it's not quite on that level here, but it still definitely works. I mean, he sounded great.
Yeah. Well, and on the subject, I mean, LeFou, like we talked in our last episode, there was so much controversy. We have the first, gay exclusive moment in a Disney movie. Okay, and no. You can go listen to our other episode for our discussion on that. But I thought it was great what they did with LeFou, and we were a little bit concerned in our conversation about how, okay, of all the characters, why did you have to make sort of the fool be the first gay character? And they kind of gave him a redeeming quality. I don't know if it was enough. It was enough for me personally, but I don't know if it was enough to sort of satisfy everyone. But he did sort of have even though he's kind of, the sidekick to the villain, he did sort of get a redeeming quality at the end. And there are two quick little scenes, just spoiler here to clarify. Okay, there is a scene where this guy gets dressed in drag, and he enjoys it.
Right.
And then at the end, LeFou and that guy dance together for like 2 quick seconds, and it's over.
Yeah, I mean, even when they pull out at the end and you see everybody dancing, like, you can't see them.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I could have wanted more of that too, but I just gotta say, like, that was great the way they did that. And both times, specifically the second time, because the second time I saw the film was with a group of just college students only. It was like a free movie night thing, but just clapping and applause. And I was like, oh my goodness, yes, for LeFou.
Yeah.
Yes. So it was great.
Nice. I mean, I just wish that the director hadn't.
Oh, I know. Why did
mentioned
we
anything
spoil
about
that?
it. And just have seen everybody's reactions after the movie came out. Instead, it became this huge thing, and then he even ended up walking back on his comments and saying, "You guys are making way too big of a deal out of this. It's not in the movie that much." And I wish that we hadn't had all of that.
Yeah.
And we just had the movie
Same.
and got to see it unfold. But
Yeah, because then you go in and you
Right.
know, and it would have been more fun to have not known, because there's really this, like, there are these cute little lines where, like, Gaston's like, why haven't you found a girl yet,
Right.
LeFou? And he's like, I am told I'm clingy. And I'm just like, oh, that's hilarious. So it would have been more fun to have not known. You're right, for sure. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Bill
Thanks,
Condon.
Condon.
Yeah, but yeah, just I'm thinking through a little bit more. I love how, I was saying they fixed question marks. I loved how the village, it was summertime, but the castle was in an eternal winter. And that was actually something with the spell. The whole town, like, we were told that the town knew about the prince, but then once the spell and the curse was placed, the town forgot about them. And so then where the castle is, it's like eternal winter. So there's like no confusion about how much time has passed between, how long was Belle there. So I liked that. I think I liked that. It kind of made it feel almost like Belle was there for just a few days, but maybe not. But I did like that aspect. I also liked how they stuck with the original story was like Belle wanted a rose,
Right.
and Maurice picked the rose, and that's how he got captured, and because he was a thief. Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
really like how they, switched it to that. It's just a nice, subtle change.
yes,
But
a subtle change
yeah,
that worked.
right.
Yeah, all of the voice, all the performances for me
Yeah.
were just great, and even with the voice performances too.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anybody who, didn't fit their character
No.
right, or they're.
And Ewan McGregor's accent didn't
It
bother
didn't
me
bother
either.
me either. No,
Mm-mm.
I thought he was great, and I loved his rendition of "Be Our Guest."
Oh,
I
Be Our
thought it
Guest
so
was
funny.
great.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, and they weren't giving that away much in the trailers, and everybody was like, "Oh, I bet it's not that good. That's why they're not giving it away." But I thought it was great. I thought that was great, and I love Emma Watson. Like, I know Emma Watson has so much experience, like working with CGI and stuff, but I can just like she's just sitting there filming, like looking like at a
Yeah.
sitting at a table. She just had to look around because that is so much CGI. All of that.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the movie is CGI characters.
It didn't really bother me that much.
No.
I mean, I still have issues with like the design of the characters.
Yes.
But the fact that they were CGI really didn't
Yeah.
annoy me. I mean, I don't think it looked terrible.
No, I'm sure there will be other things that we'll come back and remember, but we talked about some of the new like things that were added in. I loved the time travel. I loved Belle's backstory.
What was the purpose of her
Right.
going there and learning about her mother, because she didn't have a traumatic childhood. There was no like thing that she was going to gain to like help her in the present time by learning about that. I felt like
Yeah.
I just didn't understand. And of course she would want to know what happened, and they established in the beginning that Maurice doesn't really talk about it that much and all of this, but it just didn't. I was like, I don't really know where they're going with this.
I feel that I kind of was trying to maybe relate it to like, okay, Beast didn't have a mom, Belle didn't
Yes,
have a mom, but they
never
didn't say any.
connected in
Yeah,
the movie. And
never
that
said
was
anything.
Such a missed opportunity, and
Yeah.
the more I think about it, the more I'm annoyed by it, because it would have been just such a simple thing that would have nicely and quickly just furthered their relationship
Yes.
along a bit. He could have been like, "Oh, I lost my mother at a
Yeah.
young age too," and they could have had this moment, and there was just like none of that.
Yeah. So yeah, I hear that. That could have been something improved. Okay, well then let's just get on into the negatives, okay? Because we're heading that way. Again, like overall, really loved this movie, but it is not perfect, okay? Like it's really not. There are still some like question mark things, as you were saying with that. And back to the dress, because I know that's just eating you up. So, what was your big issue with the dress? For me, it was just flat.
It was flat. And they kept trying to go with this sort of modern
Yeah.
thing, and their whole point was, oh, well, she's going to be feminist, so she's not going to wear like a corset and all of the other kind of restricting things. But it's like, you know what? This is what ladies wore in that time. And, when you look at the rest of the movie, like, that's what the costumes are for everyone else. And it's just weird. And, I mean, just because she's wearing like the corsets and the hoop skirts doesn't mean that she's less of a feminist character at all.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, it would probably make a lot of the movie much more impressive if she's doing this stuff
Yeah.
in a huge skirt.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like you throw out anything that's like historically accurate or anything, because literally none of the characters, except for, I guess, Lumiere, are French. Not only that, but Belle has a British accent. Her father does not. And I'm like, what? And like other people in the village didn't have a British accent. I'm like, what? What are you doing? So it's just like we randomly have a British accent. So you just, I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with historically, but you just kind of throw away stuff like that, I guess, because it's just like, ugh.
And
But
I know you can, excuse a lot of things.
But-
because it's a fantasy, but
it could have been a good period piece.
Yeah.
Like if you, and I'm going to compare this to Cinderella because I think Disney did. I think that's still my favorite as far as just critiquing a movie out of these live actions would be, oh, yeah, great. But I felt like Cinderella was a great period piece. what they did with it.
Yeah.
And they didn't really do that so much with this, which, whatever. But
Okay, but
could have
also,
been.
okay, also that scene, after when Belle and Maurice, they're like locked up after Gaston and the mob goes to
Oh,
the
yeah.
castle. She rides away on the horse and she like
Throws-
takes the dress off.
Yeah.
And it was like, how did she do that so quickly?
Yeah. Oh,
That
yeah.
was like the weirdest scene, and even the people in front of me in the theater were like, "What is she?"
Oh, okay.
What's
Well,
happening?
also she left in the dress. I was like, well, I guess it was like no moment, no time to waste to go save her father, but she left the
That's
castle
weird, I know.
in the dress.
I just think it's funny because again, if they had gone with like something historically accurate, like you couldn't have that
No.
scene. She'd have to have like
No.
an assistant taking that thing off.
Yeah.
Like no, that's
So-
just really odd.
Yeah.
Odd.
Well, and they stuck so closely to the original costumes and everything. Like everything
Yeah.
reflected how it was in the animated movie. So even like the little blue outfit she had at the beginning, even the outfit she had on for Something There, was kind of supposed to look exactly like the animated, which was fine, I guess, but I don't know. Yeah. So Emma Watson was very auto-tuned. Knew that was going to be that way. I don't really care. I think it was a little, like, they probably could have done a little better. I mean, some parts I was like, wow, this is really auto-tuned. And that just might be a me thing. I do have to give her props because I thought she did a fantastic job as Belle. And they did go for that heavy, like, feminist thing. But I thought she had a good performance. So, The Beast, what'd you think about, obviously, I think if this movie had been made 10 years ago, they would have used makeup and like that sort of thing. But
Probably,
since
yeah.
it's 2017, or they made this 2 years ago, like they did the motion capture. Up close shots of his face looked pretty good. Full body shots, I was like, oh gosh, like where he was walking, I was like, wow, this looks bad. But like where you could see his eyes, I was like, oh yeah, that's Dan Stevens, yeah. But no, like why do we have to do that? Why couldn't it have been like makeup? They have the stuff to do
Yeah.
that and make it look cool.
Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't.
Have you
look
seen
like,
Chronicles of Narnia? No, I'm kidding.
He just doesn't look like ugly or menacing enough.
Mm-mm.
Like he's just
No.
very, like, I don't know. It's like they wanted to make this ferocious beast, but they didn't want him to be like
Scary.
So they tried
Well,
to make him, like, pretty, but not.
Yeah, and I didn't. This doesn't go so much for his look, but I didn't feel like the Beast had as much of a transformation or something in this movie either. Like he was mean with Maurice and all that, but it was just like because they kept saying, "Oh, deep down he's very nice," but it should have been more about like a long time ago he was nice. Like because like there was this whole idea that like his father had turned him into this selfish young man or something, but I never felt like he had a huge. Like, of course, he got nicer, but it was like, oh, it's there. It's just he has a temper or something.
They did a lot more telling than showing in
Yes.
that regard, which annoyed me too. And I just feel like they didn't have, especially like with Belle, they didn't have as many nice scenes together as they do in the movie. Like in this movie, one of the changes, like any changes that they made in this regard, I feel like were changes that they made for the worse in the rest of the story. Like Beast can read in this movie.
Yeah.
So there's no scenes where she's like, oh, well, I can read to you, and they have like, all these nice little moments like that. And then one huge issue that I had with the story was Belle finding out
Yes.
about
The spell, the curse.
She doesn't, I mean, they never tell her how to
Break it, right.
break it, which is thank
Good.
goodness for that,
Yes.
because that would have just probably killed the whole movie for me. But yeah, she ends up finding out after he rescues her from the wolves and he's recovering, and she ends up.
Oh, yeah. And they say it while he's right there.
Yeah, that he used to be human and he's a prince and he's under this curse and all of this, and it's like, wow, why in the world did you guys think that was a good idea? Because just right there, you just take away, the fact that she falls in love with him, just, believing that he's a beast.
Well, the
now
whole.
all of a sudden she knows that he's a person.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, well, maybe someday we can figure out some way to fix it and
Yeah.
he'll be like a nice human again.
I mean,
She doesn't say
yeah.
that, but like,
Yeah.
you start thinking these
Because,
things. Like,
I mean, the whole idea is supposed to be like beauty's on the inside, you
Right.
know?
But now she knows, oh, he actually is beautiful
Yeah.
on the inside.
And I didn't
Okay.
necessarily catch that so much because I know, because Mrs. Potts is like, oh, deep down he's the prince or
Yeah.
something. And I'm like, wow, like,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm going to keep comparing this to Cinderella, but I remember in that movie, the changes they made worked so well, I felt like, because she met the prince before, and I haven't seen that in a while, so I don't remember exactly how it worked out, but I just remember everything in that movie, for me at least, working so well. I definitely didn't, like, leave the theater enjoying Cinderella quite as much as this, because this just gave me chills, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, this is different because, it's a full-on
Musical and all that, so...
That's exciting in and of itself.
It's not perfect. There's nothing that's perfect.
My other big thing that I know I've mentioned before too is just the design of the characters,
Yes.
like Lumiere and Cogsworth and all that. I mean, even after watching the movie, they're not as immediately endearing as the animated characters.
Agreed.
Are. And I know that they're kind of trying to go for more of a realistic look, with it being live action, and there's just so many characters, like, you can't immediately see what their faces are. And they're supposed to be expressing things, but you can't see their face, and that's just so annoying, and it's just bad design. I would say sacrifice having more realistic looking characters to have ones that actually can express themselves a bit better.
No, that's a big thing. And one thing that I really liked that you touched on at some point on the show, and you said this movie had no creative vision, and I think that is still true. I feel like this was just really, like, odd. Like, I felt like the movie was very small, and I know that it was mostly shot on like a sound stage / just a big set out in the middle of nowhere kind of thing, but it was so small, and then the cast didn't feel like it had more than like 200 people in it, I guess, but it just felt like a very small scale for a movie that should have been much larger of a scale. And I know that town was supposed to seem small, but man, did that village seem small. Like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, and they tried to, I guess, do more with the ending, I feel like. The final act for me felt like it went on for too long.
Yeah, it was a lot to take in there. Like, there was this whole bit with, of course, they fight off all the villagers, but then there was a whole another section with Gaston and the Beast, and I mean, I don't know if I felt like it went on too long, but I enjoyed it, but it was...
It got a little action-y.
Yeah.
There's that whole part where the last petal falls, and then we have to go through watching all of the characters.
What'd you think about that?
I thought it was unnecessary.
Okay.
And again, it was just dragging it on.
All the inanimate objects change, and I liked it, but then I didn't like how we didn't get to see them come back to human. I was like, that is such a, like, they cut the time for that or something, because it was like, I wanted to see them transform, like, because it was just like, for at least one of them, I think it was Lumiere, like, the camera just panned away and then it turned back around. I was like, no, come on. Like, I want to see his full transformation.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so I didn't mind it, but yeah, it was like one at a time. They all just so I get that.
Like, they're gonna come back.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, it gave it like another level of like emotion to go along with the Beast, but I think they should have gone first, because the Beast dies in air quotes with his eyes open. That made me uncomfortable. And then when the petal falls, and then a long time after that, like after all the objects have turned into objects, she says, I love you. And I'm like, no, girl, it was too late. It is too late. You waited too long for that.
Yep.
Like, you waited so long to say that. Because, like, in the animated, it's like the petal falls and then she says it. And I'm just like, this was like a good, 5 or 6 minutes later. Like,
yeah, we kind of...
You should have hurried on up there. So... Also, when the inanimate objects do come back to life, it's interesting to see how they all had kind of stories. Like, let's see, Cogsworth has this wife who did not like.
He was just like, I want to be a clock again.
Yeah, that was great. Oh my gosh, the wardrobe, Audra McDonald's character, and the pianist who is played by Stanley Tucci, they were together. And then of course Lumiere and the Duster, the feather Duster, they were together. So also that was very like bringing lots of diversity in this movie. Like those were all like interracial couples and everything. I was like, wow, we're just getting it all in there. So
Yeah, I saw somewhere too where everybody was like, "Oh, isn't this like the first interracial like?"
oh my word.
Like, oh, calm it down.
Like,
Everybody,
no,
like,
really?
Like, we don't even really see them like in human form. until
No,
the end
true.
anyways. Like, come on.
Yeah, there was a lot of diversity in this, though.
Yeah,
Now I
that
think
was
about it,
nice.
so
Yeah. Even
Yeah.
like a lot of the townspeople, just you know, just people. In the
Yeah, well, the
you can
minister,
see-
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that they're, you know, they went with a pretty diverse cast just
Mm-hmm.
in general. So that was nice.
yeah, diverse also as far as where they were living, because we literally had people with the British accents and people with American accents and French accents. Oh my word! So again, overall, it really did make, and we've touched on all these negative things, but I do want to go back and say that I really enjoyed this movie. It is very magical. I highly recommend it, but unfortunately, just looking at it from a critical standpoint, it is not perfect. It's one of those where it's like, oh, that could have been fixed, but yeah. So
But, I mean, overall, I mean, it's just like a very nice, just classic fairy tale.
fairy tale, yes, very magical, very fairy tale, and a musical. And it wasn't like one of the, it's not like High School Musical or anything like that. This is like a musical. Like the songs are just there to sort of move the story along. Like it's not where the story's kind of around the songs or anything. So it's very nice. And you know, obviously very true to the original Disney film. So there's not much original stuff with this. Like I would love to see an original live action Disney fairy tale. Like how great would that be?
Amazing.
Like
I
let's
mean,
do that.
Yeah.
But still on animated subject, let's get into Tangled Before Ever After and Tangled the series, new to Disney Channel. Probably, honestly, one of the best Disney Channel original movies in a long time. Is that a fair statement?
I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
I know they're calling it a Disney Channel
Yeah,
original movie, but
same.
not, like,
That's
a
kind of
movie,
that's kind of my thought.
but-
It's more like this was the pilot episode and they decided to say, "Oh, it's going to be a movie." This reminded me, and the series as well. It reminds me of the cartoon animated series that I watched as a kid that were very like adventurous and fun. This is that. And I'm like, yes, thank you, Disney. And it's not too silly. It's not too anything. I'm just like, wow, thank you. And the voice cast is back. It's great. This is between the movie Tangled and the short that was actually played before the 3D re-release of Beauty and the Beast. That's when Tangled Ever After premiered, I remember. But this takes place between that time. Rapunzel gets her long hair back because she decides to adventure outside of Corona, and she finds like where the flower that had like, you know, given her the powers when she was a kid or whatever for her mom and all that. She finds that spot and like these spikes pop up out of the ground and then she gets her hair back. So it's kind of weird. There's kind of a mystery as to what these spikes are and all that. And I'm sure we'll learn more as the series goes on. But she gets her hair back. They gave a good explanation why, or they gave an explanation why. So yeah, I'm happy the hair's back. I think it's a little more fun than the brown hair. Obviously, they would, for marketing, they want it that way.
Well, the hair's like
But
a character,
it's
too,
yeah,
in a
it's
way.
part of the story. Yeah. So, but there are new characters in this. There's like a friend, Cassandra. She seems interesting and fun. And other than that, like the parents are in this now. This is good stuff, Disney Channel.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of Disney Channel right now. I mean, overall thoughts though, I really enjoyed it and recommend it. So
I enjoyed it too, and I liked how the characters in the show, you know, they felt consistent from the movie, you know, just outside of the voice actors, you know, returning. You know, I liked how Rapunzel is, you know, kind of fed up with living in the castle. And
Yes.
she's cooped up again, you know, like she was.
yeah,
And, you know, meanwhile, Eugene is just kind of oblivious. And he's like, oh, we're in a castle.
Yeah.
You know, this is great. But, you know, they still have, like, really great and fun chemistry. You mentioned Cassandra, and I really liked her. You know, it's kind of like a friend, but also it sort of seems like an advisor to
Yeah.
Rapunzel. Like, she's like, okay, well, you can't do this because
Yeah.
you're a princess. You can't do this.
but she's kind of like the rebellious
Right,
friend
but,
who's
like,
helping
she's gonna
her.
help her, like,
Yeah.
get out for a night.
Yeah. There was also like a bad guy character. I can't remember the name. But I was like, yeah, this is fun because it just takes me back to those cartoons where it was like villains and stuff. It was so much fun back in the day. Gosh, good times. So I just hope this kind of reflects that from my childhood for a new generation. And I'm going to try to watch this show too. I watched the new episode and I was kind of into it, kind of like, okay, this is below my level of interest, but did enjoy it. And I think it's going to be like a continuation kind of thing. Like we're trying to figure out how this hair is going to get chopped off because we're going to have to eventually find out. Since by the time we get to the short, her hair is short again. So, yeah.
I also like the new song that they have.
The music, yes.
Good.
But the music in the movie was great. Alan Menken came back and they nailed that. I was like, yes. And okay, so also it made me think of the, and this is kind of sounds like a bad thing, but it made me think of the straight to home video sequels that Disney used to make, but it was better. Okay. And this also feels canon, if you know what I say, if you know what I mean, which is like, just like this feels like this is really happening. So unlike those, oh gosh, those home video sequels.
Like it belongs in the sequel.
Yes. Even though the animation's different, it works. I feel like so. Good job, Disney. The original cast, it's all great. I love me some Mandy Moore. Fun fact, Mandy Moore liked my tweet recently about This Is Us. I said she deserves an Emmy for her performance in the finale episode. She does. I also want to congratulate Disney Channel for what I hope is going to be a groundbreaking series for the network that's about to premiere and will really sort of put the network somewhere new. And there was this great article that I shared on Facebook where Disney Channel is kind of going to take a more mature route. And from what I understand, it's like they were saying kids are growing up a little faster these days. Probably true. I mean, kids have access to the internet better, and I don't know, take that as you will. But from what I remember as a kid, the Disney Channel shows were very, very smart. And at some point, they just dumbed down their content. And we've talked about this in our, like, what was it, the DCOM episode and all that. I mean, we can get on that subject. But this new show, it's called Andy Mack. It's from the creator of Lizzie McGuire, Terry Minsky, or however you say it. Yay! Lizzie McGuire is my all-time favorite TV show. So already, I'm sold. But this show, they've released the pilot episode early online. You can watch it like on the Disney Channel YouTube, actually. And I was really, really impressed. Now, is it like amazing acting and all that with these kids? No. Is the writing, fantastic? No, it's still a kid's show. But it is more mature. There's this whole idea that Andy Mack is this 13-year-old girl. She has an older sister who is like a good bit older than her. So maybe like 12, 15 years older than her. I'm going to say more like 15 years older than her. And her older sister comes back into town after being gone for a long time. And come to find out, Andy's older sister is actually her mom. And her mom is actually her grandmother, which is very obvious because like the parents look older. And so it's like, wow, Disney Channel is doing something where they are like incorporating teen pregnancy into their story. And I was like, whoa, like this is more mature, but it's good. This is good stuff. I'm like, wow. And there's like even a part where where Andy Mack is like, so who's my father? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm sure there will be like parental advisory stuff. There's also like teenage humor, or not humor, but subjects regarding teens in the show. And I even read in the article that like there's going to be a story with like the boy best friend like struggling with his sexuality or figuring out stuff. And I'm like, wow. So I don't know how this is going to go over as far as like parents, but if you think about it, Nickelodeon, I feel like always had more mature themes in their shows. Like I remember like Zoe 101 and some of those shows, and Disney Channel never went that far. So it's interesting to see them finally do that now. But it's not so much the mature part of it for me as it's doing something that's smart and not just completely dumb. Because for so long, but as you see, they're getting rid of some of these shows. Like they're getting rid of like that Liv and Maddie show, and other shows are they're trying to get these shows off the air. And I'm like, yes, finally, okay. Although they took Girl Meets World off, and I'm confused by that. because Girl Meets World was one of those that was not dumbed down. So something with that still makes me scratch my head. I think, especially if they were going for a more mature thing, like Girl Meets World could have been a great show to start that off, because they stopped the show right before they went to high school. And I felt like the reason they stopped it was because they didn't want to have to like get into themes of high school. Because if you remember Boy Meets World, once they got older, I mean, the characters got older too, and the subject matter of that show got very, mature, I guess we could say. So Girl Meets World would have been a good transition. So, but have you seen anything about this show? I've been talking all about it.
I really haven't. I mean, I just kind of saw like a blip when I was going to watch Tangled.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I haven't seen that before, but I haven't watched any of that. I don't even think I've seen any previews, actually.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, so that's Andy Mack. That's Tangled Before Ever After and the series. And that's Beauty and the Beast. Oh my goodness. This has been so nice. You've been here in person. And I haven't even really thought that much about it, honestly. But you are here.
I'm here.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for listening to Diz Connected. As always, Katie, thank you for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, in real life, this was fun. This really was fun. And of course, be sure to check out mine and Katie's social media links in the description below. For more Diz Connected content, you can follow us at Disney_Connected on Instagram. And until next time, have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon, folks.